Allow me the privilege to introduce Jasneet Bachal, Chief Marketing Officer, Yes Bank, Srinivas Jain, Executive Director and Chief of Strategy, Digital and Technology at SBI Funds Management, Alok Bhan, Director and Chief Marketing Officer, Max Life Insurance.
We also have with us Manish Dubey, Chief Marketing Officer of ICICI Prudential Life Insurance, and Apurv Sood, Vice President, Global Business and Partnerships of WebEngage. Welcome, everybody. We'd like all to switch on our cameras and let's get started with the panel. So, just a small note, before the pandemic, the BFSI industry was already into digital marketing in a big way. And this is a marketing panel, right? And but digital marketing is a trend that has really accelerated. It has taken up a lot of steam with the impact of COVID. Web platforms, mobile, even social media are today being used far more than they were, before COVID hit us. And these are being used extensively by BFSI organizations as gateways to for customers to use their services. The fact that BFSI employees also work from home, for a long period of time during this crisis actually complicated matters.
This involved creation of campaigns through online collaboration of teams, deploying them while sitting at home, creating a more perhaps empathetic engagement model with the customer in this time of crisis, and greater personalization of digital communications for the consumer. At the same time, marketing budgets also got a cut during this crisis. So BFSI.
That's what always happens, right? I'm saying that's what always happens in a crisis.
Yeah.
The marketing budget.
Absolutely. So the BFSI sector has had to do far more with far less at this time,
Yeah. So, all right, let's now take these issues to the panel and let us begin. I was very interested in the mutual fund area. So let me speak to Srinivas and come to the mutual fund view first. So Srinivas, you have products and solutions for small retail investors, and you also have products for global institutional investors. So there's a wide range, right? So what's your strategy to attract this entire gamut of customers, in a post-COVID world? Would you say that the traditional marketing mantras are still effective, or have you evolved to a new set?
Thank you, Alokesh. Yeah, it's an interesting question because traditional itself has evolved over time. So what was traditional pre-COVID was not traditional today. But what will be today traditional will change again next year when things change. But for us, I think the advantage of being a very recognizable brand, a trustworthy brand, we actually were kind of beneficiary during the COVID crisis. I would say a whole lot of assets did come to us. In fact, our market share went up quite significantly during this period, largely because trust factor plays a very important role during, COVID kind of a crisis. So we kind of did well to position ourselves during this period, transparency, increasing more communication. While I don't think we did more spends, but we ended up spending more on one-to-one communication with our network, with our channel partners, and more importantly, our investors. So we have now more than a 1 crore investor base with assets of more than 5 lakh crores in mutual funds. So that gives us a huge opportunity to, reach out for them, assure them about both our capabilities and the future of the economy. And that also gives us a lot of opportunity to upsell them because as markets started dipping in March onwards, there was a huge opportunity. As you might have seen, there was a whole lot of SIPs that actually got stopped and a whole lot of communication had to be done during this period to make that happen. Today, I'm very happy to say we have 5.5 million customers who give us SIP every month, which is a very, very large number. That means our business is kind of now on a stabler ground than what it was, let's say, 6 months ago.
Say then overall, just for a small thing which I was really interested in, would you say that the retail part of mutual funds is that increasing the share of retail investors?
As a percentage of assets, it is not increased dramatically because institutional money is still big.
Mm-hmm.
But there are two ways to call out retail. One is to say genuinely how many retail customers we have. We have more than 1 crore retail customers. And that number has actually gone up even during COVID period. So there is no problem there.
That's what I wanted.
The second part about it is there is retail, which is coming under the so-called institutional. So we manage the EPFO money. The EPFO money, when they invest with us, the beneficiary has another 8 crore customers who come as part of that. So when I add up, what we call a secondary effect, the
Your
retail participation,
primary and your secondary together, yes.
retail participation actually has gone up significantly for us.
Right. I'll take that question to Jasmeet. We were talking about retail participation, and we've seen in the past few quarters that if you have to reignite the lending basket, you have to be dependent on retail borrowers. That's what the past few results have shown us. So, how do you calibrate your strategy around this? You know, there are, despite Jan Dhan, there are still large sections of the Indian population who are still unbanked. So, what is your strategy to pull them in?
I think what we must really look at in today's time is that at a large level, okay, because of given COVID, we've seen a huge psychological and social shift, okay, in the mindset construct of consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, operating in the retail space, you have to really look at, you know, there are three things which I can probably, in my view, I think that really stand out. You know, one is that most consumers have shifted to a very rational purchase cycle. So they're very rational and they look at more need-based purchases, right? Secondly, most of them, the way consumers have started expressing themselves in today's day and time is that they're looking at newer ways of expressing emotion. They're looking at, you know, how to focus on self-care, how they can confront stigma. So this has been a huge shift in the way consumers themselves are coming out in the social and the emotional space and talking about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Thirdly, one big shift is that, you know, consumers have recalibrated their interdependence on, you know, family, society, all of that, you know, maybe community at large. So as an outcome of these large shifts, you know, the retail strategy, the segments that you want to go to, all of that is informed by the broad shift in the consumer, in the consumer behavior from a marketeer's lens. So for example, you know, one thing is that banks are at the intersection of many industries, right? So there is huge opportunity to curate and involve different communities and segments into how banking can happen and cater to them in a very customized fashion by building the relevant customer journeys. Today we spoke, I think we started this session talking about how digital has sort of always been embedded in the financial marketing space, but it becomes even more important to provide both experience and to make the customer journeys profitable. And when we say customization, so it depends on the segments that you're really looking at, right? Whether you look at the unbanked, you look at the heavily banked, you look at different segments, you look at the MSME segment. So depending on what is the need, you know, so heavy digitization and building the customer journeys, making them personalized for some, you know, making them extremely relevant for the others. And that is the big learning that we have out of COVID is that stay even more relevant, right? Don't overwhelm the consumer, but walk with the consumer and in an empathetic fashion.
Yes, it's just the other day that Alokesh actually got 2 back-to-back calls from the same person,
within 30
same
seconds.
Within 20 seconds from the same marketeer, having refused his services first, he again called back. So I think that is
and he didn't even realize that he was calling the same guy.
Yeah, I think that is what we need to fix. While we personalize the journey, we have to ensure that we, as you said, we don't overburden them with offerings.
So let me now go to the insurance leaders, right? Alok and Manish. And insurance has always been, anybody calls me, says life insurance, lena, I'm like, boss, you know, leave it. I have got the mere paas hai. So there is a lot of, there's also, I think COVID has also, you know, brought in a lot of pressure on you because I think there has been a lot of claims, a sharp increase in claims that has happened, right? And there has been this perception of less trust for insurance companies, you know, generally. So you think, how has really COVID changed things for insurance companies like yours, especially, you know, life insurance, because it's very critical for us. And do you think this fast tracking of digital adoption tools and strategies, is it going to change the perception of distrust that is there? Alok, you want to start?
All right, thanks. Thanks, a good question. Good morning to all co-panelists. While yes, Manish and I will try and address this, the biggest, you know, the area which we are, as our industry, which we need to really settle down with is this factor of trust. And the response that you introduced, the line that you used by introducing, life insurance bolte to baba, ye nahi karna hai. And I think that is really where the crux of the industry is, and I'm sure Jasneet can add to that as well. She's also an ex-insurance veteran.
Yes.
The point really is that I think for our industry, while it's been, and as in the previous meeting, we talked about 21 years for the private industry to come in, the industry still has to build on awareness. Lot has been talked about. I think the regulator and all the industry has come together, especially in this time of COVID. Frankly, the most relevant product that is relevant in these times is life insurance, and we have seen that. Life insurance, health insurance, etc. And we've seen that in our demands as well. We've seen our Google giving out so many trends that life insurance has really increased, and even the industry has, some players have grown, some are on the process to grow. So the focus that I would like to say from a marketer's perspective, from a business perspective, is to grow the awareness and try and address the basic purpose of life insurance. Lots of times through various decades, we have seen life insurance has been sold as an investment product, as a product meant for saving tax, right? That is not the core purpose of life insurance. So when you say, Alokesh, that mujhe nahi chahiye, kyun nahi chahiye? You have to understand the core purpose of life insurance. The core purpose of life insurance is to ensure that your family's future and even your future is secured. And what more is relevant in these kind of times when the entire community, the entire human community was put at risk.
Right.
The health factors and the ability to sustain your livelihoods is questioned. People say this is a pandemic. The way I would like to say is, it is a pandemic. It's not a global pandemic. It's a personal pandemic. It was outside your house. It was lurking on your doorstep. And therefore, you needed to get prepared for it. So the purpose of life insurance really is to prepare yourself for a future that is secure, not for returns. Returns, there is Srinivas there, and there are many more 44 AMCs who will help you with that. That also we will provide, but the first purpose is about securing your future, your family's future, and that's the core purpose of life insurance. Now, when you think of that, Alokesh, then you should ask yourself this question. Alokesh, are you ready to take care of any future uncertainty in your life? Now, that brings me to a second problem. That to the young communities of your millennials and everybody else, why did they come back and say, why do you talk to us about an uncertain future? Abhi to humne zindagi shuru kari hai. You're starting to kind of, put a fear factor inside us. It's not about fear, Alokesh. The way I look at it is, it's about preparing yourself for the future, right? You will come through various milestones. Are you prepared for it? And frankly, once you're prepared for your future, then go and live life aram se. At least you know that you're confident. If something were to go wrong, you all are well prepared. Like in business, we all prepare provision for bad and doubtful debts. So kyun karte hain hum? So that if there's an uncertainty, we are all having reserves. To your second question, yes, deaths have increased. Yes, we have faced mortality issues. But if as an organization, and at least I can speak for myself, if you have provided for those deaths and your provisions, then that's the time that these provisions have to be used for.
Yeah.
So pretty much, I think it's about a decade away for people to really understand the core purpose. This event of COVID has certainly given a fair amount of support, and people are beginning to realize. I don't think as yet that it's a demand product. It's still a push product.
Yeah.
But people are beginning to realize much more, and digital will play and is playing already a big role. The simple reason that we have to be as a brand next to our customers. So wherever the customers are, like Jasmeet said, we have to be there as well. So yeah, the journeys are complicated, but we made a fair amount of dent, the entire industry.
Right. I'll take that question to Manish. So Alokesh spoke about the general distrust that has always been there with with insurance. And Alok pointed out that what he really said is that we don't really understand insurance that well, right? Somebody will bring a paper and say, "Yahan sign karte ho, hum log sign kar dete hain," not even understanding what we are actually purchasing. So do you think the digital adoption will change that? This is your opportunity to ensure people understand, and therefore the understanding will propel people to buy more life insurance? They'll
And
understand
just
the
to
risks
add to
more.
Suchetna's question, one extra thing from what Alok said for you, Manish, is that do you think, because everybody is looking at life insurance as an investment product simply because they're getting that tax break, right? So do you think that tax break has actually done disservice to the idea of insurance? To you, Manish.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Alok, for your comments, and Alokesh and Suchetna. I'll keep it extremely simple. This was a black swan event. What it did was it increased the felt need for insurance. Everybody got threatened a bit, and in the process understood the need for insurance. And that created some bit of an opportunity with Google searches going up during that time. Did we come through on trust as an industry? I think we did. When we started at our company level, what we saw, there was a lot of requests about knowing, are your policies covering COVID? This was the fundamental question that was being asked. And we did a lot of communication around it. And life insurance did cover COVID. While the claims are increasing or not is a secondary question. First question, are you covered? And there we earned trust by saying, yes, you are covered. Second point, how we earned trust was, if you see the life insurance companies' claim settlements, all the top companies are upwards of 97%. So the distrust on claims is not around life insurance. We are settling in 97% plus, with some companies going up to 99. So we are earning our trust all through. In this context, the digital opening up has changed the market for everybody, including insurance, including life insurance. And we feel that with a better approach towards media, the awareness that Alok spoke about and the trust that Alokesh spoke about, both are likely to go up. So that's one part that we see definitely as an opportunity to do. Again, coming to the digital media and how things are changing, in the new scheme of things, we saw many new people coming into our industry. So earlier who were coming had already thought about it, had a view, yes, positive or negative, but we saw a lot of new customers coming in to just explore. And at that point in time, we realized it's not only digital. Finally, it is digital plus some bit of a human interaction. If somebody who is at 40 plus, 50 plus, who is coming to using some of these things, and financial transactions, remember, are not so easy to make. And you can make smaller payments on your mobile, but larger transactions are still seeping in. The penetration is going up. So how do you earn trust for transactions? And that was the question. I think brilliantly put. So the next job is to earn trust on transactions, both on service and purchase. And my personal formula around that is, today, CX is equal to TX plus HX. So customer experience is equal to the transactional experience, which digital brings, and the human experience, which is fundamental to the trust that we are talking about. And any company, any brand that does well there is definitely like to win the tomorrow. But huge opportunities.
You didn't answer my question on whether this tax break has done a disservice to the idea of insurance.
Look, we have been talking about this. Surprisingly, people are no longer buying life insurance only for tax. It was a story which was maybe 10, 15 years back. It must have been absolutely true. Today, as you know, there are options to save tax without investing in any instrument. Like government has come out with the direct route as well. Second, more and more, we are seeing our customers who are not really buying it for tax. So our dependence on tax breaks and all that is coming down over a period of time. And we are also, as an industry, working towards a setup where that does not become the primary motive for buying the product. So I would kind of say it's neither a service nor a disservice, but it's rather becoming a fundamental need, and that's driving purchase, and that's good news.
That's really good news. In fact, that's fantastic. And I'll come to Apurv now. Apurv, you are the enabler of a lot of solutions, right? As WebEngage, you are the enabler of a lot of solutions for enterprises like as we see on the panel, and those who have joined us. So give us your views on this whole issue of trust for the insurance companies and greater participation of retail in the mutual funds and the trust in banks, and how can tools like yours and better strategy help these organizations meet customers' expectations better. And do you see really any change, because you are interacting with these people on a regular basis, right? Do you see a change in strategy, a shift that is likely to stay, because of the pandemic?
Hi, thank you for the question, Alokesh. While I think most of the panel brought in good inputs on each of the domains, I'm going to bring in something from a software come marketing automation standpoint, which enables communication. And I'll bring in also a global context. I'll step back for a moment and I'll say, what do we need for communication? Right? Ultimately, whether you're talking about trust, whether you're talking about anything else, what you need to do is communicate that via some medium or channel or mode, right? And to take a step back, what you realize is you need data for all of these sort of things. So for us, the way I look at it, I think we've been talking about digitization of banking for a really long time. Some people have given it'll take about a decade to get more stable and all of those sort of things. But what happened with pandemic is suddenly product you had to go for towards a product or service, right? So for example, most people would either send agents or go to banks to actually talk about retail banking or personalized banking, or phone banking was an extension. But this DIY mode of filling up forms, signing up things, doing things wasn't yet as matured in process. What happened in this pandemic is that banks, life insurance companies, and other insurance companies suddenly had to bring these services at your doorstep without actually having any human interaction or an agent in place or someone in between of sorts. I think that has turned out to be a very big boom for us. And I'm seeing all of this aligning in communication as well, right? Now, I think people are trying to talk about, unifying the omni-channel experience, right? Which is both branch-based banking versus digitalized banking. People are talking about omni-channel consumer journeys more seriously, right? And hence bringing in the whole aspect of bringing in personas together, user profiles together, bringing in this whole concept of how can we, as rightly said, right? One of the panelists highlighted that, in fact, you highlighted that, I was getting a communication to sell me insurance or something by different people and different agents. What is this? So one in the next stage of the journey, now that we are in, what I feel is that it's a good initiative. A lot of cloud is coming in. So people are more open to cloud digitization, these new concepts. I think what will happen eventually is once we talk about data and bring all these things together, we'll have to figure out a way to not only communicate, but communicate with keeping some sort of consistency in mind. Who are we talking to? When do we need to talk? What do we need to talk? At what stage, what needs to go out? Which channel or which medium would the person be comfortable in? What is the previous context of a communication? How are you going to, so, I understand, there's always going to be a big big thing. And now with, it being digital, it becomes even more harder because when you're, people sitting in a room together, having a conversation is trust. It makes your life easier. You can see a person, you can actually, look at the body language, look at the kind of tonality the person is using. Now you don't have all of that, right? You're basically interacting with a computer screen to figure out, buy a product, right? Now, I'm not talking about just cheap products. Like I'm talking about stuff that could cost you crores over a decade or a couple of lakh rupees, right? And looking at our per capita income, all of these numbers are pretty huge, right? So now to enable trust digitally is going to be really hard. And it's going to take a lot of reinvention and innovation internally to make sure that trust is bought you win back trust online, and make sure you scale digital banking heavily across sectors, domains of banking finance. So I see this adding a lot of value in the long run. And I think what COVID ideally has done is accelerated the digital growth. So a lot of us as companies are very happy from that standpoint.
Of course, Apur, what you said also ties in with what Alokesh began this panel with, that the first thing that gets cut when a crisis hits is marketing budget. I'll come to Srinivas with this question. So how do you adjust your marketing budget during a crisis? There will be constraints, right? And so with those constraints, how do you approach new concept, new campaigns? How do you exactly do more with less?
Well, that's been the marketer's dilemma forever, right? You are always provided less than what you want.
But COVID would have accentuated that problem, right?
That's also true because of the the whole economics of the business. One of the downsides to all this is cutting down on marketing expenses.
Right.
On honestly, there is really no science behind it. There have been companies which I have seen on the e-commerce side who've doubled down during this period. But I think BFSI as a whole has not been very aggressive. A couple of things have happened. I think whatever limited budget was there kind of moved to digital, and less kind of happened on your traditional media. And that's kind of changing now slowly, because traditional media is also important in building certain conversation, brand equity, and others. For us as an industry and us as an individual company, we did not see major change in dip in our budgets, but we changed in the way we used our budgets, right? So we did a lot of digital events compared to physical events that were anyway not happening thanks to COVID. And also, I think one of the biggest thing that happened to us, and I work with this mutual funds IEA campaign with Amphi, the industry actually doubled down on our expenses during this period on the mutual fund campaign. So that kind of helped, right? So we used this IPL as a big branding event for the mutual fund industry, and we had cricketers endorsing us. That really helped us in, even if we didn't spend enough, there was at least from a mutual fund understanding education point of view, we had enough and more customers coming for us, right? So we were not necessarily left high and dry because there was not much of visibility as a category. But as an individual fund house, as an individual marketer, we spend more time in trying to drive business behavior with existing customers, with our B2B network, which we, predominantly mutual fund as a B2B, and also, of course, building our digital channels and networks. That was where most of our money went in. Very less was spent on our traditional media, at least during COVID period. That's kind of changed in the last month or so when economies have opened up. Print being one of the sufferers, we've now gone back to print with some amount of investments, but we will do more of that in more of those segments, simply because there is still a whole lot of people who still depend on that particular segment for communication and reassurance. So you will still see, we don't write off something because something new has come up. We just have to look at each segment with a different target group experience. And that's something that's happening. Per se, we didn't struggle too much with budgets. We were okay with what we were got, but just that we changed our business plans. And as I said, the biggest boon that we had was Mutual Funds IEA campaign.
Yeah, I was just coming to that Mutual Funds IEA.
That was a really good campaign.
Yes.
Funds IEA. In fact, I referred to the campaign a lot of times.
Yeah. Alokesh, you said something we couldn't hear.
Yeah.
I say that I've referred to the mutual funds IEA campaign quite a few times in several of my panels, because I find that idea of storytelling is really good. Storytelling has been there forever, right? But the mutual funds IEA campaign is really
gave us, Alokesh, we actually doubled down this time. Our spends were almost close to double compared to what we were doing a year before, simply because this gave us an opportunity to reassure people. One of the interesting communication we did this time, and we actually talked about risk in investing, which is counterintuitive to mutual funds IEA. And that actually played out very well in terms of understanding of our mutual fund brands across, right? So it's really, really, initially we were scared whether this will play out well or not, but it did play out well. You get a great cricketer coming and saying, be careful before investing in mutual funds, do all your study, but in the long run, mutual funds are good for you, was a great message.
Thank you. Very, very well said. And I'm very interested to know, Jasneet, the story of Yes Bank in this, because Yes Bank, of course, you went through your own different kind of crisis in recent times, and you've come through it very admirably, right? And Yes Bank is much stronger, I dare say, than before, which is fantastic. But what does this do in this time of not just the COVID crisis, but the kind of corporate crisis that Yes Bank went through? Did your marketing budgets get constrained? How do you spend a lot of time just reassuring people that, don't worry, Yes Bank is still there, we're still there, which we saw a lot of, right? We saw a lot of communication from the CEO also directly in different media, assuring people. And so what kind of a marketing strategy should organizations employ? You have come through fire and you have been sort of purified, as it were, right? But what sort of advice would you give to others who might face the same situation in this kind of crisis? How did you get through it? And one supplementary from an audience person who has asked an interesting question. You can just quickly answer that a little later, which is from a financial inclusion point of view. And Yes Bank has been very strong in the digital front. How do you see small and medium banks and NBFCs approaching digitalization, especially in remote districts of the country? So this question from Chandrasekhar T in our office. What do you?
Sorry, my bad. Thanks, Alkesh, for the vote of confidence. So, I would definitely start by saying that unprecedented situations can open doorways to new possibilities. And it is up to us, professionals to really exploit those new opportunities, both for the benefit of consumer and the benefit of the institution, right? So, first, I'll actually step back and talk about the existing COVID opportunity and how we layered that to utilize it in sort of rebuilding the brand and trust in the brand. Yeah. So, for example, one thing is very evident is that in COVID times, right? So, whilst we feel that everybody is up and about, there is no unlock currently, right? But still, it is that have we returned to stability as consumers, or are we still talking about a return to normalcy? So, what we hear from consumers are echoing what around is that they're talking about living rather than living events, right? So in COVID, there was this whole thing of how are consumers going to build harmony with the way they have to work. So you look at consumers who were working from home, they had their own set of grievances, their own set of insecurities, their own set of anxiousness. People who had to, sort of step out, had, maybe essential services, doctors, bankers, otherwise had their own set of challenges. There was anxiousness there too. So it was really COVID in unlock times was really where the dominant emotion was anxiety. What the consumer wanted was very different, from what previously how the brands were associating with consumers. So consumers brought their whole selves in. Okay, it was up to brands to actually understand and start building those very deep-rooted relationships with consumers. Whether it is advertising you put out there, or whether it is product propositions that you are creating and taking out to the consumers for the benefit of the consumer, and of course layered with marketing and campaigns and all of that. So we've seen dramatic shifts, and at Yes Bank we worked on all the shifts to cater to the consumer, evolving needs of the consumer. Very clearly, we kept the consumer need at the heart of everything we've done every single day. And really what has happened is two things. One is that we had a lot of positive events, right? That happened in the from the institution lens, right? So quarter-on-quarter profits going up, right? Then we saw the ratings going up. We also raised a very successful FPO, which was the largest in the BFSI sector. So all these were very positive indicators from an institutional lens. As a marketer, as a communicator, it is our job to actually take it out and, in a very authentic fashion, convey that to the consumer. Yeah. So that is one aspect that we did. So what we also did in COVID times is we evolved the voice of the brand, the tonality of the brand very clearly. With the anxiousness and the consumers were living with, they were actually looking for brands to walk with them. And that is exactly what we did. We evolved our tonality to be very authentic, extremely transparent, and walk the talk. So we've done actually multiple campaigns, launch of multiple propositions in COVID times, which are for the benefit of the consumer. We've also looked at how you can, when we're designing propositions, how you can fuse partnerships, to mobilize communities, how you can actually use marketing technology platforms to enable the communities that are your core target segments. So illustratively, if I pick, just a few pieces of work that we've done. So we did some campaign around Independence Day, which was really solving for, the local grocers and the local brands and consumers, so that they could connect with the local brands and local sellers for sourcing of products. So we did a Yes for Local. We built an entire marketing technology platform. We enabled 1,000 plus, partners on that platform for our customers. Likewise, when we recently launched the MSME, proposition and more empowered proposition for MSMEs. And within that also we've built another platform which is about how you can enable different sectors in the MSME to actually engage
and interact with each other for business benefits. So again, curating platforms. So the how marketing has really evolved is that how do you curate the right marketing solutions for business enablement? Of course, at the back of it, I mean, not to say that you will give up on the job of building trust and all of that, but it comes closer to business, particularly in times, unprecedented times where there is crisis. There is pressure on balance sheets across all institutions, all corporates, and you have to be very, very prudent with how you're actually spending every little buck out there. It must have the right sort of profitability. It must sort of build the right connect with the consumer. We also did multiple campaigns which were largely in the realm of building trust. So we actually worked with the consumer, right from the unlock stage. So if our job was really about, positioning ourselves to build trust, and therefore we picked the proxy of responsibility, which is zimmedari. We layered it with, the unlock times of saying zimmedari se tayari. So whether it was about Yes Bank bouncing back with the positivity and the good, positive incidents that were happening at the institutional levels, it was the consumer who was actually moving from lockdown to unlock. So how the consumer can be responsible, so you take the next step with responsibility, and we are working with you in that responsibility with the readiness that is required. We also put out our Yes for Local in that. We also put out, simple solutions were needed for local grocers like Express Pay. How do you get consumers who are looking for contactless interactions? So the grocers and the local stores could just send an SMS and you could just pay, and the reconciliations, payments and all of that. So it is about how you build those interactions which provide simple ease, but actually are much needed in the customer journey to actually complete a transaction. After we did Zimmedari Se Tayari, we also moved to, the festive season. So we spoke about, how to responsibly celebrate, festive season. We are used to, so festivities in India have always been linked with, high level of spends. Over the years, last decade and a half, we've always seen loud promotions, loud discounting happening, right? But we know, there have been multiple sectors which have been hard hit. So whilst they are making a comeback, how do we encourage them and tell them that they're responsible for their own happiness? And we are working with them, partnering with them if there are loans that they need.
Thanks. In fact, we have limited time. We need to go to the others. I can see that you have had to use practically all your marketing experience to come through this, and it's really interesting, to hear your insights. Suchetna, you want to take the next question?
Sure. Jasneet just mentioned how you need to curate platforms to reach out to every level of customer. I'll come to Alok and Manish with this question. It's also a question from the audience, which I'd also like to ask you. So what are the kind of strategic innovations that both of your companies are doing to reach out to the rural segment of India? Because most of the growth we see is coming from rural India. So is that also a sector that you guys are looking at? And what are the strategic innovations that you're doing to facilitate your services by making it more feasible for rural India to buy life insurance?
That's a very good question. I think it's about your whole company's strategy and therefore the segments you want to pick up. Of course, the growth is all around India and there's more growth seen in the rural segments, as I guess India is getting more flat in its typical access to digital and all those things. So yeah, how we have approached the segments in the rural side are actually designing products that are specifically tailored for the rural areas and for the rural customer. We have actually as a mandate from the regulator for long, 20% of our business has to be done in the rural segment. So we have products for that, be their individual products, be their term products, be their endowment products. The more important thing is you've innovated on the journeys. As Jasneet was talking about, it's not so much about physical face-to-face. It's more about, mobile to mobile kind of a journeys. Therefore, lots of technological interventions have happened to make our entire journey mobile friendly. I won't even say to make it desktop friendly. We actually leap from the desktop friendly straight to the mobile friendly. And of course, building awareness.
Friendly, do you only mean smartphones? Do you also mean the feature phones? Because
mostly smartphones, but feature phones is still an area which we have not catered to as we speak right now. It's
Mhm.
not a complete segment for our brand to go there. We have focused on our segment. Mostly smartphones, Alokesh. I'll say that. I guess Manish can add. The larger institution, they can come back and say they've
Yeah.
gone to the non-smartphones or feature phones.
Mhm.
So it's largely been tech enabled, but more importantly, it's also been trying to do communication with them through webinars and through various awareness techniques. The aspect is that the journeys have to be friction free. So things like a 3-click journey, get
Mhm.
a policy issued in 3 clicks, getting all information already preloaded. All those things are in the way and have been done. The good thing is that we are close to now, instead of the mandatory 20% on rural customers, we are close to about 27, 28%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we believe it's a more segmented game and a strategical decision on that.
Yeah.
Manish,
I'll come to
you can add.
Manish with that question. Years back, P. Chidambaram, as the finance minister, said that Indians are the bravest. And then he quickly added a note saying not because they're actually brave, but because they are the lowest buyers of insurance. So how do you intend to change that with, what is your strategy? How do you penetrate insurance further into the Indian economy?
2-3 points very quickly, Chetna.
Mhm.
One point is the fact that making insurance available at very, very affordable prices. And many of us are working in that direction. So you have today insurance, which is 20 rupees a month or 150 rupees for that. Even the Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, which came at 330 rupees, was a big hit at our company, and we did
Yeah.
a lot of work to do that. And that is taking to the people who otherwise would not consider a higher amount. That's part number one. Part number two, it's a lot about now reaching out to them in their language. So vernacular is, as you know, is a good growth medium in digital, and we are trying to invest in that. And reaching out in their language makes communication easier, and the relevance comes in. Third, thanks to the digital growth and overall democratization of the smartphone, I think we are also partnering with some people who are already ahead. So you can't do everything on your own in the same year. So trying to get better products, trying to talk in their language, and then partnering with people who are already working in that direction is something that we are doing consciously.
Mm.
As an outcome of this, the penetration and the point that you raised about buying the insurance and to the right quantities will definitely happen over a period of time. The chances today are much higher than the chances that were there 5 years back.
COVID has helped that, right? And so has digital adoption.
Absolutely.
Interesting. And so Apoorv, what you as usual, I'm coming back to you with the technology question because you're the tech whiz in this group. And to Alok's point, that they're doing mostly smartphones, and I think a lot of the work is not only life insurance but several other consumer-facing areas are actually limited by this this sort of divide where you have all these apps and everything for smartphones. Certain things are getting filtered into feature phones in a sort of in some sort of way. But what are you doing in this regard? Are there tools and are there methods that you are developing or you have? How can you help these organizations reach out to the rural areas better with more effective tools for people who don't necessarily have the kind of digital access we have?
Super. Thank you for calling me a tech wizard, Alok. Alok, I'll not take that much of credit, but yeah, but yes. The way I see this is right. I don't think it's about smartphones versus feature phones. First, to be fairly honest, I think it's about mobile. And the reason I say that is because with the beauty of innovation around technology, whether be software, hardware, anything of that sort, is that how can you make it more affordable and how could you make it more easy to use, largely, right? So I think with the beauty of innovation in the smartphone segment is actually bringing the prices very down. So in a period of time, you'll see a lot, and any which way the feature phone usage is down. Even in tier 2 rural areas, people are picking up smartphones because they're really cost efficient now, one. So I think what the challenge is that how do we approach the customer in a world of mobile? Should it be app based? Should it be a website or a page that could be more mobile sort of sensitive and should be open to? I think the split is between that. So the idea should be, as rightly said, right, by Manish as well, that we have to make sure that your entire digital banking experience fits in a 5-inch screen. That's what it has to be all about, right? And a lot of that has to be automated, right? I heard words like 3-step checkouts, right?
Hmm.
Which is what it is. That's a reality, absolutely. And now, how do we do that, right? If you got to enable a 3-step checkout and such quick journeys, right? You need to have stuff like pre-data fill-ups and or not only product aligned but backends also aligned. For that, I think a lot of reliance will go into technologies like AI and ML. A lot of work is already being done there. I think a lot of good ecosystem partners and fintech companies are coming on board. I've seen banks and other companies investing into fintech now, if not investing, partnering with them. So as I said, the ecosystem is fastly evolving, right? It will be about, you don't have to really do everything, as rightly said,
Or even buying them
uh,
over. I think it's not only
absolutely,
partnering.
absolutely. I mean, investing, buying, partnering, whatever, right? So it's a good thing, right? The whole ecosystem is coming together to say that we've been fairly non-digital for a long time. We have both two things. One, we have audiences going digital globally. The buying, today 30% people of your actual sales funnel is buying, which used to be probably pre-COVID 15% or 12% in top countries like US, right? And that's a big jump, right? It took 10 years or a decade plus to actually get to a 12 or a 15%, and it took 2 to 3 months to actually get to a 30%, right? So that's how the digital pick up. So now it is not an option, it's a necessity. And with the necessity, how can we, banks, other financial institutions, NBFC, payments, and platforms, technology platforms, software platforms like us, which enable all of this, how do we come together and say that, how can we make this whole journey easier, faster, more transparent, more automated, more data oriented, and eventually, I think if customer wins, we win.
Right. I'll come to Srinivas with a question. There are lots of audience questions that have come in. So I'm actually going to jumble up 2-3 questions and ask you one, which is that what is the big marketing trend to look out for in the BFSI space? What is going to be your marketing strategy for 2021?
I think the strategy is kind of evolving. One of the big trend that I see is in our industry, we call beyond 30 markets, the smaller markets. The digital penetration now where it is, we believe now that market has opened up significantly on the digital adoption side. So we are doubling down on those markets, which is beyond the top 30 markets. So our investments, whether it's for search engine optimization or for, a phygital kind of operation, we've now moved beyond the top 30. In fact, now we are lopsided. Most of our new investments that we are doing are now coming from those non-30 big cities. So that's the first trend that I see in the marketing spends point of view. Second, really big trend that we see is marketing automation. That's something Apurva has also talked about. We are investing significantly on building data sciences, AI, ML, with help of players like WebEngage and others. More importantly, we're building our own internal data, mining capability with data marts. This is large investments companies have to do. Yeah, all along, people were very happy servicing the way things were happening, but today intelligence is becoming important. And as marketeers, we are doubling down on that part of it. So one is reach, second is capabilities in terms of research. And the last part, obviously, is the brand positioning. Over time, the brand positioning has changed from being very product focused, or solution focused. Now it's more about trust factors because the world is now a little more, difficult to navigate. People would like to trust brands which are more easier to accept. So you got to be there explaining how your brand actually takes care of the trust aspect. In our business, trust is very important. And, so these are some of the 3 key trends that I see will continue to evolve in 2021 for marketers to watch out for.
Thank you. And in fact, I would have liked to take this question to everybody else, but we are already 12 minutes over time. So unfortunately, we'll have to put a stop to the panel here. Thank you all very much for your time, Jasneet and the gentlemen. And it's been a pleasure interacting with you. Thank you very much.
Alokesh.
Stay on and watch
Thank you very much for taking the time out today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Alokesh, a very nice, invigorating panel to begin proceedings for the day after Kalpana Mode, right?
what's the key takeaway for you? For me, it was the idea of trust, and that brings us also to the
Yes,
second
yes.
panel.
If we had more time, I would have liked to explore that. For the mutual
Yeah.
fund sector, look, ESG investing is the biggest thing, and that's all about
Yeah, I
trust.
know.
Yes,
Absolutely. And trust has to come through the right customer experience strategy, which brings us to the next
yes,
panel, which is great, right?
absolutely.
So let's do that.